All right, folks. So one of the lessons from 2024 is that apparently Twitter more closely resembles real life than many of us thought. And
Yep.
I will eat it on this because I did not think that it was as one to one a reflection of reality, as apparently it is, at least according to the voters. Wow. Says Robbie Starbuck. CNN admits that X now represents the average ideological makeup of the U.S. better than it ever did before Elon Musk bought it. Incredible to see them admit this after all the fear mongering they pushed about X since Elon bought it. Let's take a look at this. These are some pretty interesting numbers.
One of the big reasons he bought Twitter/X is because he wanted to make it his own platform, remake it in his own image. And I think this really gets at it. Look at this. The party ID among those who regularly use X/Twitter for news. Back in 2022, 65% of those who regularly use Twitter/X for news were Democrats. Just 31% were Republicans. Look at where we are today. Just a completely different picture. Now it's basically split between Democrats at 48%, Republicans at 47%. And what I should note, Mr. Berman, is this new overall makeup matches the overall electorate far better. And more than that, John, look at where Mr. Musk's net worth is today versus where it was just 2 months ago. He is the richest man in the world by far. 2 months ago, look at this. His net worth was $252 billion. Look at where we are today, $314 billion. He is by far the richest man ever to be on this planet. So, yes, he's not as popular. Yes, Twitter/X perhaps is not as popular, but it's a much different platform, one that more represents Elon Musk's, let's say, political instincts, and he is now a far wealthier man.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at this graphic here, it went from 65% Democrat in 2022 to only 31% Republican, and now it's pretty much even. So if you do the math there, the Democrats lost 17 points, and the Republicans picked up 16 in terms of representation on the platform. Now, I personally don't really recall. I mean, I have really no memory of what the app was like pre-Elon because I was reluctant
I really
to join
didn't
Twitter.
use it.
Yeah, I really didn't use it back then. I mean, we pretty much started using it for real like last year. You know, even in the early days of this project, we mostly just had an audio show. We would post to Facebook a bit, and that was about it. Like, we don't recall the Jack Dorsey era personally.
We heard about it. We heard about it because we were covering things related to it,
Right?
Like the Twitter files, obviously. But yeah, I didn't like it. I still don't like it. It's very clear to me that it was designed to be algorithm, brain candy, crack addict kind of a platform where you get engaged and you go back and forth. It's just so clearly an unhealthy environment, not because of who's on it, just the nature of it.
Oh, yeah. No, it totally is.
I never wanted to be on it. That's why if anybody follows me on X, honestly, because I do this, there is no way I would be on X if I didn't do this. So much of the political conversation happens there. You cannot be in this space and just ignore that platform. So to maintain a presence there, I'll share a lot of memes. But generally, I don't write a lot of content because I just don't like it. I don't want to engage with that platform. It's so clearly psychologically unhealthy to spend time on X. That's not because of Elon. That's just the nature of it. It's not good for you. In my opinion.
It really is not, and it is a truly addictive thing, especially because of the fact that it is such an efficient medium through which to absorb news. Like when I woke up this morning, what did I do to check to see if there's any late breaking, i.e., the ICC warrant? Right. I opened X. I figured whatever's breaking will be there when I open the app. It'll be right there.
It'll be trending.
I'm not going to my news app and cycling through stories where there might not be an article ready. As soon as news breaks, it'll be there. And so that's why I use it. But it is a very, very dangerous trap to fall into where I will find myself just out of habit at random points of the day opening up the app and checking just because we're in this game. Right. So that's why we didn't really get into it before we started doing this seriously, which coincides with the Elon era. So I don't know what the Dorsey era was like. What I will say is that, and Misty has talked about this, there does seem to be far more engagement now from the MAGA people than the non-MAGA people. You know, you'll do 2 anti-Israel stories, one with an anti-Trump bent to it, one just more a general anti-Israel story. The anti-Israel story will get way more engagement than the one with the anti-Trump bent, right? And that's true on YouTube as well. That's true of social media generally, but especially on X, especially on that platform. And this is why. And I'm not I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that reflects that shift. I'm always down to spar with people. Like, I think you guys have picked that up by now.
And frankly, look, when
I'm not looking for an echo chamber. Right.
Yeah, when we've gotten into certain subjects that have brought out the real anti-Semites, yeah, man, they're on X, and they are able to say shit on X that they would not be able to say on most social media platforms. And having had that directed at me, my instinct was not, this platform needs to change its algorithm. They need to fix their algorithm. No, man. I mean, this is something that really I think we have to get away from. This idea that the solution to bad speech is not more speech, it's censorship. That is really insidious. It's really taken hold. And it's something I just didn't even grow up with. It just doesn't occur to me that that's the solution. There are assholes out there.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. I mean, you hide them from view. They're just gonna find another way to express that. Wouldn't you rather have them where you can keep an eye on them? Wouldn't you rather be aware of them? Maybe you can persuade them. Maybe you could say, "Hey, why do you think this?" Like, what do you think happens when you just silo them off? You think they go away? They don't go away. They find another place to congregate.
Right. And the other thing I would just add to that is, you know, not only on the anti-censorship front in terms of, like, you know, hateful speech being directed at you, which, like I said, yeah, my impulse is never to report people or to have them censored. I've never done that. Even on the quote unquote misinformation front, you know, I would rather do the work of having to sort through the bullshit than just have people banned for posting the wrong thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's another thing. Who watches the Watchmen?
Well, that's, yes.
Even if you think people like this, that was the whole principle behind the ACLU before they got too much lib money and became whatever the fuck they are now. That was why they fought for the right of Nazis to march in Skokie in Illinois, which was a neighborhood full of Holocaust survivors. Because it's not that they love Nazis at the ACLU. Once you open the door, that's it. That's what happened with Alex Jones, right? This is just the beginning. Now, if they can do this to Alex Jones, they're going to start doing it much more broadly, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, generally speaking, yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, look, the other challenge of X is that, you know, because there's less regulation of speech. Now, yeah, bullshit can travel faster and it creates extra work. But you know what? That extra work, that's called engagement. That's like knocking down bullshit is part of political engagement in a free society. It's not the most pleasant part of it, but it's a necessary part of it. Like, speaking of Alex Jones, he tweeted out an old video of Trump saying he's going to avoid World War III. And because he tweeted that out, a lot of people were under the impression that Trump issued a statement about Biden authorizing these ATACMs for use in Russia, which is not true. He didn't say that. But you have a lot of people under the impression that he did because a high-profile account tweeted out an old video. So, yeah, I mean, that sucks. Do I want him thrown off the platform for doing it? No. Like, it's it just falls to people to correct him. That's what political engagement is.
There's a guy walking around Vegas right now. He's got the dick of a spider. He's got the head of a goat.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's just
why would
game.
we not want access to that content?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, that's just a part of the game at the end of the day. And so, yeah, at the end of the day now, it does seem that Twitter reflects reality at least more than it did in the Jack Dorsey era. Now, look, it's a social media company. It's a very politically oriented app. What you're getting on Twitter are the opinions of the most obsessed and hyper engaged, right? So in that way, it's not a one-to-one reflection of reality, since you can't really gauge enthusiasm based on it necessarily. On some issues, you probably can. It probably matches up. But you do get now, according to this data, and the election results seem to bear this out, a more ideologically representative distribution of thought on Twitter as it pertains to real life than you do on some of these other platforms, including the Twitter of 2 years ago. So it's a pretty rapid shift, actually. Yeah, because a lot of Democrats have left. Look, the real high-profile ones stick around because they have 1 million followers and they don't want to give that up. But according to that data there, 17% of the Democrats fled, and they've picked up 17% share among the GOP. So that's real. There was a real lib exodus, and the conservatives flooded that space, and now you have a more even representation of views.
Yeah, well, to these people, the modern so-called left, really liberals, to distinguish them, they're a religious cult. You can't disagree with a religious cult. You're evil, right? As the Scientologists would say, you're a suppressive person. Right? You're a suppressive person, so what do they tell you to do with suppressive people? You got to shut them out of your life. All cults will tell you that, right? You have to shut them out of your life. You can't hear any information from any other source. You have to only surround yourself with co-religionists.
Right.
This time with Blue Sky, they seem to be making a real go of it. I think this will stick a little more than the Threads Mastodon failed experiment did. But it's still not going to be successful if your measure of success is having a lot of engagement and a lot of people and a lot of cultural impact. No, it's going to be a backwater of social media because in the end, in the aggregate, there are not a lot of libs. There are not a lot of people like this. Not a lot of people really want to live in a silo with Barbara Streisand. For most people, that's a Clockwork Orange scenario with the eyes clamped. Stop! Make it stop!
Right.
Like,
well, also,
who wants to be in that with these disgusting people?
Well, the other part of that is like an ideological homogeneous platform is never really going to be relevant. Like Parler never really became relevant because it was just right wingers who went to Parler. Look at Truth Social. I mean, Trump posts is there, but is Truth Social relevant to the public conversation? No, because it's all
the only
MAGA
thing about
people
Truth
there.
Social anybody mentions is what Trump posted.
Is what Trump posts,
Trump.
right? It's basically his bulletin board. But aside from that, does anybody care what the conversation is there? No, because you're only getting one political sect, that's going there. Twitter has become more conservative, but it's still about half and half according to the numbers. So that's always going to be more relevant than a platform that says, "Hey, come here to let your lib flag fly or your MAGA flag fly." Like any space without that conflict, without that clash of ideas, is never going to signify really much of anything because it's just a clubhouse for a certain group to flock to, and who cares what they say in their own quarters? It's about what you say to the other side. It's about how you clash with the other side. That creates conflict. That's real politics. That's what's relevant to people.
Yeah, and it's a group that most people, as we saw in these election results, find repulsive. We've talked a lot about, in this segment itself, okay, online's not real life. Well, I don't know if I would over-determine the meaning of these election results. Trump didn't really gain voters, very little. He gained in certain demographics, like the demographics of his voter base shifted. But in the raw numbers, he didn't really do much better than he did before. So it's not that all of this Madison Square Garden, President Camacho, I'm a MAGA maniac. It's not that it brought in more people. It's that the Democrats gave no reason for normal people to vote for them.
Exactly.
All you had left were the libs who go, oh, Beyonce. Oh, my God. Beyonce, Bey is appearing with Harris. That is not a big portion of the population. That is that is a certain kind of person. That's definitely a certain kind of person. It's not a majority. It's a very urban, very lib, very PMC cohort. It's not a majority of people. So what you saw wasn't that Trump really gained anybody. So I wouldn't say the idea that this isn't speaking to people is completely off base. It's that what the Democrats were offering was such a pile of nothing and such a turnoff, I think, to a lot of people that their vote count collapsed.
Right.
It's not so much that Trump gained with anyone, it's that the Democrats just turned everybody off. And take into account how many people just set a pox on both their houses and wouldn't vote for either.
Please clap.